It is the fracture of her first rib.
Because it looks like these otters are fixing to have relations right
Still
next
have
to
the
that
power
dam.
to soothe
And help
myself,
them.
but the irrepressible power of
You wake up alive. You wake up alive. You wake up alive. So long, feel my wings sometimes.
500 words or less. Tell a complete story. Sometimes have a twist ending. The rules of flash fiction are simple but challenging, and have drawn a group of writers to the Little Falls Public Library each week to share their work. They add one additional rule. The word of the week must be used someplace in the story. Flashcast is a showcase of their work, and each episode will feature stories inspired from the word of the week. The content that arises is astounding, the talent superb, and the creativity infectious. These stories are streaks of lightning, charged, compressed, and certain to entertain. Welcome to Flashcast.
No regrets. It was spring. The foliage was my favorite minty green color, mixed in with the fragrances of melting snow and new life, while the air rustled with a slight breeze and I heard the chirping of birds happy to be back home. As I was appreciating all these senses and enjoying my morning coffee, I saw branches fluttering in a nearby bush. I inched closer to get a better look. It was a robin. Her little mouth was full of twigs, and after each trip, a perfect circle started to appear. I continued to watch her fly back and forth, each time bringing with her yet another little piece of nature with which to build her nest. She placed dried leaves that survived the long winter at the bottom of her perfect circle to serve as a comfy bed, and she delicately wove long pieces of neglected grass between her twigs for warmth. And while she labored, she sang. When she was finally finished, I felt like I had watched a renowned artist complete a true masterpiece. A few days later, there were 3 little blue eggs nestled in Mama's little nest. I couldn't watch for long because each time she returned, she let me know she was not at all happy to see me. I just wanted to visit with her and share some stories, but she made it very clear she wanted no visitors. At last I heard little peeps coming from the bush. Peeking in, I saw 3 gaping little mouse. Mama swooped in, making a warning racket while not losing the juicy worm she held tightly in her beak. I quickly moved away so she could perform her mama duties in peace. It did my heart good to watch this mama love and nurture her babies. The routine continued as I watched the little hatchlings grow and thrive with their mama's love. It was a beautiful sight to behold. Then came the day when Mama felt trusting enough to hand over the car keys to her kids. She and I watched as one at a time the 3 babies flew off on their own. I got a cup of coffee and sat with Mama, who was ready to talk to me now, and we silently commiserated our empty nests. You did good, Mama. You provided a warm and safe home. You nurtured your babies into healthy young adults. You gave them their wings, and now it's their turn to fly. There should be no regrets, and hopefully you saved a little nest egg for yourself now that they have spread their wings and have gone to live their lives. I wonder if she'll be back next year so I can relive my life yet again.
Empty nest. Susan looks out from her study window. Spring seems to have finally unfurled its innocent backdrop. Her backyard is dotted with early signs of tulips and hyacinths popping through the wet, dark soil. The forsythia bushes add a thin yellow fringe along the fence as the barren shade trees are rapidly clothing themselves with delicate, soft green foliage. Most pleasantly, what catches her eye and makes the scene complete is a fidgety robin nesting in a young cherry tree whose blossoms are not quite mature. She has a perfect view from her upstairs window as she watches the mother bird primp over her new nest. Susan holds one hand on her own stomach, hopeful. Hopeful that this time one of her own eggs will take up residency in her welcoming nest. She and Tom bought this lovely cottage-style home 7 years ago with all the intentions of starting a family. But try and try again has not presented them with positive results. Susan checks in on her mother bird every few days, hoping to witness the small pale blue eggs become energetic little heads fighting for their turn to be fed. Sadly, something else has been visiting the nest, something evil and malicious, as one of the 4 eggs is missing. Days later, another, causing Mother Bird to stay in her nest, never leaving it unattended for more than a few minutes to fulfill her needs. On a grim afternoon, Susan returns from another disappointing doctor's visit. She, too, lost another egg that was suspected to be part of their future. Also on this day, another egg taken from the robin's nest. Poor mother bird is down to her final egg. Susan shares in her loss and misery as she is told the prognosis is quite severe, ovarian cancer. Urgent testing and frequent visits to her oncologist, they attempt to harvest and freeze whatever eggs they can from Susan in hopes that a surrogate could possibly help bring their dream to fruition. After long contemplation of the hopeful new nest, Susan prepares to undergo surgery to have her ovaries removed, leaving her with an empty nest. While quietly convalescing, Susan gazes out of her study window into a soft teal sky. She is overcome with grief and sadness for herself and for the poor mother bird who tried so hard to save her last egg. She sobs uncontrollably until she sees Mama Bird take flight, and upon her speedy return, a welcoming committee of one little wobbly head, she's so happily relieved and so devastated at the same time at the fragility of nature. The phone rings. "Auntie, we're pregnant!" Hope in a new nest.
Curiosity. Early in the day, the beekeeper was tending his hives beyond the garden when he saw a color unusual to the familiar scene. What is that royal blue color in the distance? He squinted hard, but he couldn't make it out through the mesh of his face covering. Did the dogs drag something down there? Or had something been beached from the stream that runs through the forest? He didn't have time or concern to check it out, so he continued to draw the honey. As time went on, more curious he became. What on earth could it be? Still in his bee protective gear, he walked slowly, craning his neck to see around the bush that appeared to be hiding the royal blue coloring something. As he moved closer, his pace diminished to near child steps, his curiosity rising as his steps slowed, until he suddenly realized it was a person, a very still person, a body. He raced to it. Horrified by the reality, he recognized young Alexandria. Fearing the worst, he bent to her, tentatively, tenderly, to check her condition. Her clothes were soiled and disheveled. Had she fallen from the horse? No, she was not in her riding clothes. Next to her lay a robin's nest with 3 smashed blue eggs. So she had climbed the oak tree, he thought, and fell. How long has she been there? Her innocent pale face was expressionless, with a smudge and a bruise developing on her cheek. Her pulse was weak, but there. He thought he would carry her safety, but he called for Kolya, who was tending the garden instead. Hearing the alarm of the beekeeper, Kolya came running. The beekeeper suggested they each take a side, clasping their extended arms beneath her to carry her between them. They bent to reach under her shoulders and knees, but Kolya stopped when he realized that Alexandria's legs were askew. In the war during Turkish invasion many years ago, he had witnessed body injuries of all kinds. He checked Alexandria for broken legs, but could find none to explain the disparity. The injury had to be in the hips or the back. In either case, it was more serious than he first perceived. He and the beekeeper shed their jackets and laid them end to end on the ground. Standing on either side, they gently lifted her shoulders, tucking the jackets beneath her. With Kolya lifting her hips and the beekeeper lifting her legs, they managed to get her small body onto the clothing. With long sticks, they threaded the jackets, creating a crude stretcher. As fast as they dared, they hurried to the castle. After his examination, the doctor consulted with her grandfather, the Count of Ostrava. Yes, she is alive. No, she is not conscious, but she has been moaning. There is no doubt she has broken her hip and will require constant care. Time will tell, but she may never walk again.